Confidence, the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something, a firm trust. Aloha, Islanders. Welcome to another episode of Improvement Island, your mind's getaway. I am co-founder and CEO, Collin Devino, and today we have Trent and we have Quaid to discuss the key truths and principles on confidence. How you guys doing? How we doing, Trent?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm happy to join. I appreciate you guys rejoining for a Confidence 4.5 episode. As you both know, last week I had driven about 15 hours going from Utah to Kansas and had a bit of travel fatigue, jet lag, and I guess I had a little bit of overconfidence in my own biological ability to wake up and not sleep through my alarm. So I appreciate you guys revisiting the topic so I could participate with you. So
sometimes you got to have a remix. So we're remixing it up today. No problem. Well, let's just get this thing straight started. Trent, why is confidence so important to you?
I think confidence is important to me because it kind of allows me to go boldly or face the world in a bold fashion. And having a belief in myself that I can handle the obstacles or challenges that might be thrown my way in, day-to-day life or over time or whatever it may be.
What are your thoughts on confidence, Quaid?
Well, I was just kind of thinking about it because, this past week, since we've been talking about the last call, you and I have talked a few times, and we've talked about, me being frictionless. Everything I do in my life, I try to set it up to be in a frictionless manner. And, confidence, it's there with frictionless. Confidence allows me to act frictionlessly. So, I can move into situations, I can start a business, I can meet new people, I can, navigate obstacles with, a certain degree of confidence in myself, just because, I've done it so many times, whether it be in that exact same situation, a similar situation, or something that I can reflect on that, can bring light to this situation. So, confidence is important to me just because it allows me to, move almost without limit, just because, I know my limit. Well, technically there are no limits, but, I keep pushing myself.
I love how you said that. The last time that we talked about confidence at this part of the junction, we talked about GSP and how he can just jump from different industry to industry and without fail he can go and dominate. So it's the ability to have the belief in your own self to jump from thing to thing without having too much. I mean, maybe it's risk. I don't know. What do you think, Trent? Is it almost a way of feeling more secure, that you can feel that you can go from task to task without having to worry too much of the risk involved with it because you have that confidence?
Yeah, I do think security has a lot to do with it. Being secure in yourself and feeling prepared. I think confidence for me has a lot to do with preparation. Confidence can also be separated from that, but that's when you find yourself in bad circumstances where you're like, oh, I was overconfident. But in GSP's case, that guy's work ethic, number one, why he was as successful in the UFC and just in MMA as he was, I guarantee now that he's jumped into some acting stuff, he's taken acting classes. He's working on either, I guess he plays a French guy in that show, as you guys mentioned, which I haven't watched yet. I need to get Disney Plus so I can watch that. It sounds good. But I guarantee he's taken acting classes and he's taken that prepared and focused mindset to the arena of acting the same way he was to the octagon.
Speaking of preparation, great insight, Trent. Speaking of preparation, Quaid, what do you feel like the importance of preparation is when you do jump from step to step?
Well, preparation kind of falls in like with one of my life models that I grew up with from my dad. He's like, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So if you're showing up unprepared, like you're going to get slapped. Like, it's not going to be an easy process. There's going to be a few things that you didn't expect. You're going to be missing some supplies. You're going to be missing, like whatever it may be. When you show up prepared, you have more self-confidence within yourself and your own actions because you've you've looked into whatever obstacle you're working with, you've looked into whatever industry, you've looked into, whatever it may be. So having that preparation is definitely very important because it can save you a lot of time, energy, and money, all valuable assets.
Great insight. So let's move over to, how does one showcase this confidence, and where does it breed from? Trent, what are your thoughts?
How do you showcase confidence? I think one of the primary ways for me is by, doing my best to be the go-to guy, so to speak. Being the person that people can go to. If they need help with something, or if it's work and something needs to, get done. I like being the go-to guy, and I think, showcasing confidence and also representing and just being a confident person, and people knowing that you are not only confident but competent. You have the competency. Then I think, when you're confident, that kind of allows your confidence to lead people to look to you, and for you to have the opportunity to become a go-to guy, so to speak.
I love the concept of go-to guy. At this juncture, we talked a little bit about the nonverbals and the verbals of confidence. Quaid, what did you gather from our last episode on just nonverbals and your verbals when you showcase your confidence?
So I was just thinking about that when you asked that question. It was kind of running through my mind. Confidence, can sometimes be, something you showcase, or sometimes it's not something you showcase. Whether it's putting a stamp on your name, putting a stamp on your work, putting a stamp on your team, anything like that. So, some people are going to be loud, some people are going to be quiet. And walking away from the last call, I think each one of us are individually, obviously different, and we have our own ways of displaying or showcasing. Just some of mine personally are non-verbally. It's really just that mindset, just like what you started this off the podcast with, the definition of confidence. It's the belief within oneself, and I'm able to carry that belief. So it's kind of like a non-verbal, that's just within myself. That's how I carry myself, everything from the walk to the shoulders back to being prepared to having the right team members with me to having all the material ready to whatever it may be. And then verbal is also how you speak, how confidently you come through. Do you sound knowledgeable on the subject? And that comes from your nonverbal ones. Have you done some of your studying? Have you done some of the back end work?
Trent, this was a time when you were pretty confident, right? Can you see that?
Yep, I was pretty confident there. I would say I was.
Explain the picture for us, will you? This is a time when you said that you were one of the most confident in a sector of your life. So explain a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So there is some backstory to why this particular picture I chose. I was in Vegas with meeting actually some of my half sisters who I had never met before. And I'm trying to think what street it is. It's one of the main streets in Vegas. You guys,
Bingo.
Fremont Street. So I was on Fremont Street, and this is just one of the, they have all kinds of little side shows where they, get participants or do tricks or dance in this case. And the reason this had to do with confidence for me is that the guy called me out of the audience. And I just, without hesitation, went up there and participated. And the backstory now as to why there is that change is, I think when I was about somewhere between 6 to 8, I went to Disneyland. And I remember they were doing, some little thing where it had the big crowd and they're doing something with the characters. And I remember they tried to pick me out of the audience to do it, but I was just, so nervous to be in front of people and afraid. It's kind of funny, but that really stuck with me because then I saw the kid that they, ended up choosing after me, and it was a lot of fun, and I was like, I wish I could have done that. But, being a kid at that time, I just wasn't, confident enough to participate, or maybe I was too self-conscious, whatever it may be. But so I'd always had it in my head, if I ever get pulled into a show like that I'm going to do it. And so that was just an example of that actually manifesting and me doing it and being comfortable, in myself. And, they had you do a bunch of stuff, and I made it funny in certain ways because I couldn't do the, flips or, whatever they were doing. But I was glad I participated and did so in front of people like that. So anyway.
Super fun. I remember I've done many of those in my life as well. We did it in high school. You get picked on the events, right? And the different assemblies that we had. Those are really fun, as well as just walking down the street and there's tons of performers, and usually their whole motive is to, draw a scene, draw a crowd, maybe make some money from this or whatnot. Like in New York City, they do it a lot. And even they'll do it, like we were in Italy just a couple years ago. They try to get a lot of people there, so they build that awareness and it brings money. It's crazy how little things like that can bring money. Do you have any experience with that, Quaid, at all, of having to jump into some sort of crowd? I'm sure a lot of our listeners have had to do this before, but have you ever had to do that, Quaid?
Well, it's kind of funny because I'm thinking, back to, old memories. And it's like, back in elementary school with like reading, like, how you'd be reading a book in class and like, each student would read like a paragraph, and like I would scan ahead and look for like any big words and, try to figure out how to say the big words. And they go, that's one of the things, like reading, like I used to not want to read it. I'm like, oh man, I'm called next. I'm next. And then I finally, just got better and better. And I wanted to read because, I was good. I wanted to, kind of showcase, that I can read the big words and so forth. So I've had that in the past, but my junior year of high school, I went into a confidence camp up in Eden here in Utah. And in that, it put me on the stage in a lot of different unexpected situations. Like all of a sudden, you're just sleeping. It's like, okay, Quaid, we need a 2-minute, speech on this, or, you got to put this together. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I was not prepared for this. So I've been kind of accustomed to, being called on, out of the blue, unexpectedly and so forth like that. So I kind of almost crave, being on the spot and trying, figure out what I need to do, or, putting on a show, or, reading, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, let me add on that real quick. There is, I think, like a neuromodulator, neurochemical effect that happens when you do get put on the spot. You get that sudden release of, norepinephrine and acetylcholine and some adrenaline, and it can help you focus and actually, like, actually give you a better product than if you had something 100% prepared.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
mind state that it induces.
I think it has to do with the preparation. Now, I understand where we're coming from, where you get put on the spot and whatnot, but just utilizing the patterns that you've seen and kind of creating some sort of outcome ahead of time of what you want to accomplish. Like Quaid, you said that you used to read in advance for the words. Well, if you didn't ever read in advance, you were just called on to read, you wouldn't have the opportunity to prepare for it and have that confidence ahead of time. What do you think on that, Quaid?
That is very true. And then, over time, I started, reading more and more, in and out of school. So I developed, the skill set, and the confidence within myself of that skill set to, publicly do it.
Now, speaking on that, how does one gain more confidence? Trent, what are your thoughts on that? How does one gain more confidence? Like, how can I gain confidence today? Because we can research, we can do all these things, but how do you just change where you're at and be more confident? What are your thoughts?
I think there is as we were saying, an approach where, it's the preparation, you've put in the work, so you have a reason to believe in yourself. And at the same time, confidence, I think sometimes people mistake confidence for what is actually an ego or vanity project, but it's really not that. It's about having put in the preparation and the work, so that you can trust in what you're doing. And I'd also say, I think that there's a physical or biological aspect to it as well, where, it's not not in a sense of like, oh, I look good in the mirror, so I feel better. But if you can exercise regularly and have your diet in check and you sleep good, for me, those are keys for confidence. Just it kind of gets my neurochemicals in order and gets the good hormones flowing, and I'm healthier and I just feel more confident. And if I have those things out of order, it's harder for me to manifest confidently in the world.
I love it. I'm trying to go back to, I think we all can agree that when you're a kid and when you go to school, you feel like you are like put into an institution that makes you and cultivates you to be more confident. You go to recess, you have to hang out with your friends. You go to lunch, you have to be socially with other people and kind of like understand where you are on the totem pole just in the actual school setting. They actually force you to do exercise. Now, how many people that are listening to this right now have done exercise in the last week? How many of us have exercised in the last week and given our bodies the ability to kind of recoup and get the, you know, the dopamine, the serotonin levels up where we are in a state of mind where we can stay confident? Quaid, do you have any thoughts on how we're nurtured to be more confident at a young age just with our physiology?
Yes, I mean, definitely depending on, the environment you're in, whether it be at school, at your own home, your own friends that you surround yourself with. I think you're going back, earlier saying there was an institution to kind of help build confidence, but, I don't know if that's necessarily, fully there. I mean, everybody has like their own agenda, everybody has their own perception, everybody has their own whatever it may be. So in school, you may not even be focused on, confidence. You may be focused just on becoming, like the best at math, or, whatever you naturally fall into as a kid, you'll focus on that. And sometimes you don't even care about, the other people or so forth. But I do think for the right person that is in the right environment, that has, the parents or has the friends or has the right mentors or has the right whoever around them that, is helping, them grow to be their best version of themselves, then they'll recognize, okay, I'm in school, I'm publicly on display, I am not necessarily competing, but I'm educating myself. And they obviously kind of rank you A, B, C, D, F, in class, and there's always honors, non-honors. So it depends on how hungry you are as a person and what your natural mindset is like, along with the mindset of the people that are around you. Because as a kid, monkey see, monkey do type of situation. So if your parents are a public speaker and they regularly are doing public speaking events, if you're a kid of like MLM, manager or director or something, and you see your parents on stage a lot, you're going to be, naturally probably pretty apt to be doing it because, you just think it's natural because you see your parents do it all the time, or, you see your best friend do it all the time, or whoever it may be. So, I mean, it can be in a lot of different ways, showcasing, building the confidence and following through with it.
And as you do things more, like let's say public speaking, the first time you might be a mess, and you're overwhelmed with stress hormones and neurochemicals, and you're shaky in your voice and you can't talk and you're kind of out of order. But then as you do it over time, your body learns how to calm down that autonomic arousal level and bring you to a place where you can just manifest in a way that is confident, and you're not, stressed out by those situations as badly. So it's kind of a putting in the work and the repetitions thing as well, I think.
Oh yeah, it's all about the patterns and making sure that you can kind of see ahead of time. And like Quaid, we jumped on this call talking about friction and frictionless, right? I'm sure that you didn't just out of nowhere become great at certain aspects of your life. You had to go through the reps. And one of the most important ways of keeping that sustained confidence would be mental control, right? Being able to control your emotions. What do you guys feel like? Why do you feel like controlling your emotions is so important when developing confidence? Trent, what are your thoughts on that?
I think emotional control is highly important, and ability to handle stress and to handle unpredictable circumstances is paramount for me in being confident. And I think the ways and the way you develop the ability to manage or control emotions as well as confront stressful and unpredictable situations is by building up your own tolerance for stress. So, and an example, I guess, a primary example for me and how I do this is through physical exercise, where I'll put my body under a high amount of stress, but then I learn to calm my mind. And I feel like that kind of allows me to do that in various other aspects of my life, kind of in the rest of my life, not like, till I die. I mean, just like in other aspects of my life, the stress tolerance that I build in the gym exercising allows my stress tolerance in other arenas of life to expand and be greater as well. So, and one more thing that you said on the frictionlessness thing, I'm glad you brought that up again. That sounds a lot like what you call a flow state. You're in a flow state. You're out of your own head. You're kind of operating with what knowledge and things you already have. It's not necessarily a creative state, but you're in the flow, you're in that frictionless place. You're like MJ, just in the zone, draining whatever, last minute shot. It's frictionlessness sounds a lot like flow state. I think they're probably about the same thing. So
floating down the Weber River. Quaid, what do you do in order to kind of stay focused and keep your emotions out of things when times are tough and it kind of battles your confidence per se?
Emotions is tough. I mean, I think just about for anybody, no matter how mentally strong you are, managing your emotions for me is almost like risk mitigation. And I say that with coming from the perception and the perspective of trading stock a lot, or, working in the equities market, or handling money, or being in stressful situations. Being able to handle your emotions is super important because, the emotions can cloud your judgment, as we all know. So when you get into like a real angry state, when you get into a frantic state, when you get into a depressed state, whatever it may be, you are now in a whole nother paradigm within your own mind that may not be the paradigm that you should be in order to accomplish whatever you're working towards. So being able to mitigate and handle, I guess not mitigate, but it's also understanding your own emotions and what triggered the emotions and how you can handle those emotions and redirect those emotions to be to help the situation, to missing the word, but to better the situation.
Speaking of handling our own emotions, it's activity time here on Improvement Island. So what I want everyone to do, including our participants, is to stand up real quick. We're going to showcase how our beliefs can help us to become more confident and not limiting our beliefs, but to get ourselves in a state of mind in order to be successful. So learn this from Tony Robbins. So shout out to my man, Tony Robbins, for this. What we're going to do is I need you guys to stand straight forward. Okay, we'll wait for Quaid. There you go, Quaid. I see.
Ready?
Where are you at? Are you in some random woman's house? You're on an island the other day. Now you're in a random freaking room.
Oh, I'm back in my childhood room, but I haven't redecorated or anything for the past decade. So
where are you at, Trent? Are you in a cloud house? You got the chair right in front of us. Can't even look at you. That's all right. We're ready to rock and roll.
That's I'm in a dining room actually.
There we go.
Well, hey,
little better. We can see your whole body. Make sure you guys have some.
Island. There is a pool back there. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's covered right now because it's winter, but that's as close as I am to an island right now.
That's okay. I actually wanted everyone to stand up to make sure everyone can see we have some shorts and pants on, because a lot of times on these Zoom calls, people aren't even wearing nothing. All right. Cool. So first things first, team, what we're going to do is we're going to have our feet straight in front of us, right? So you're going to be looking straight ahead. And what I would love for you to do is actually point your finger straight ahead like you're pointing at something, right? Is everyone doing that? Perfect. Now, without moving your feet, what I want you to do, now be careful when you do this, okay? I want you to move your body in a clockwise fashion with your finger straight ahead, and however far you can go, stop right there. Now, remember that spot for me, okay? So you moved as far as you can without moving your feet at all. You're straight ahead. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the middle, okay? Everyone go back to the middle. Now, I need you to move your body around, and I want you to believe in your head right now that you're able and you will be able to move further than that. You're going to be able to spin 2 to 3 times around your whole body. You're going to be able to go 3, 4 times around. You're going to look like it in it too, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same exact activity, but I need you to believe it in your head that you're going to be able to do this, okay? Is everyone ready? Now, point your feet straight ahead. Make sure you have room to do so. And I want you to go further than where you went. Let's go spin all the way around as far as you can. Go, 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 go. Oh, without hurting yourself. Now, let's go back to the middle. Now, Quaid, Trent, how far were we able to go this time?
I'd say I went about 50% further.
50% further. Quaid.
I went probably like 15%.
Quaid,
I
you're
was already
relaxing.
maxed out.
I'm
Like,
just playing. Hey, most individuals, now you can sit down. Let's go sit down. Everyone get back. Most individuals, after doing this activity, are able to go anywhere from 30 to 50% further. And why would that be? Why would that be that we were able to go 30 to 50% further, minus Quaid, because Quaid's an outlier? But what do you think, Trent?
I think you kind of have the baseline that you just set, and then you go, okay, I'm telling myself now that I can go further, and I'm going to try to go further than I did before. So you kind of have like a set point that gives you a challenge to push further. And then you do find out, you're like, wait, I had a little bit more in there than I thought I did. And then you go further.
Perfect. Quaid, what are your thoughts?
mine is one, physically we had kind of, just warmed up and we had just done one rotation. So, had kind of, like stretched out the muscles a little bit. I'm going to be honest, it was my birthday yesterday and I'm definitely feeling a little bit older. My hips hurt when I turned a little
Happy
bit
birthday,
more.
by the way. Happy birthday, my man. 27, right?
Thank you. Yep, that is right.
Our birthday little celebration we did last night, the three of us, just over Zoom. That was nice. So
Always,
birthday.
we always gotta celebrate, man. Celebrate the wins. Keep going, Quaid. Sorry, I blocked you off.
I mean, like it's like physically, we had just done one rotation. We got up, stood up a little bit. So, one, it was that, but two, I agree with Trent. We had done it once. We had sent a benchmark. So now we know we need to, we have a reference point.
Love it. Benchmarks, you physically are warmed up. And also you put your state of mind that I'm going to do this. I'm going to go further than when I went the first time. Those three different action items, the ability to just try. I just saw something on LinkedIn. I think it was a little bit earlier today. It was by the Daily Sales publication on LinkedIn. Shout out to Daily Sales. It talked about just doing it. Just start and just get going, because you just don't know unless you just try and assess where you're at in life, right? Get your body physically ready to rock and roll. Make sure that you have the right emotional state going into it. And even if you don't have the emotional state, it'll get there as long as you just start trying, right? And you find the people and the people that have been successful in that sector to keep moving forward. And a question I want to ask you, Trent, is why do you feel like a lot of us lack in confidence? What can we do when we're lacking in confidence? Like, why do we feel like, and how do we lack in this certain aspect? Why do we feel like we lack in confidence?
A lot of it has to do with things we've already talked about. Maybe you're not prepared. Maybe you lack in self-esteem. I think that can be an issue. Or maybe you got there's some physiological factors at work, like you're not exercising, your nutrition is out of whack, you're not sleeping well enough. I think those can all play a role in causing one to lack in confidence. But I think there is a more modern issue as well, being social media. And the issue that manifests there is people comparing themselves to other people, whether it's people you went to high school with, or you're comparing yourself to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and you're like, man, their life looks so perfect. They got this nice house or this nice car, and oh, I don't have that. Or look at this, entrepreneur on the internet entrepreneur, some say, now they're doing so much better than I am. And I think that damages people's confidence as well. And it's kind of the mechanism of comparison. Are we reaching a limit here?
Shortly. You're good.
Is there any way we can expand it?
Yeah, we will. We'll expand it.
Yeah, if we could just keep going for a while, I think I'd appreciate, that would be great. We kind of have this thing in our brain where, comparison does have a role, because, back in the day, you're a farmer and let's say your neighbor down the road has the same amount of acreage, is farming the same crop as you, but he's growing more, he's getting more, yield output. In that scenario, it makes sense to compare. So you want to go, well, what's he doing differently so that I can yield the same amount of whatever crop you're growing. But that built-in comparison mechanism in our head kind of gets put out of whack, via the internet, because we compare ourselves to people who have completely different circumstances than us. And I think that can kind of lead to people hurting people's confidence, and hurting people's self-esteem and making people more self-conscious.
You're talking
So-
about comparison. You're talking about comparison, Trent. And when we're in the schools, right? Each and every week or every day when children go to school, they're comparing themselves in a fact of like, hey, I got an A, you got 90%, you got this percent. What do you feel like is the difference between the school system and the internet right now?
I think the internet in a lot of cases is just a way for people to kind of maybe show off, like it's kind of like I'd say there's a keeping up with the Joneses aspect that everybody kind of participates in. And maybe that's more significant in Utah, just due to cultural factors than other places. But, I know a lot of people, and I have like one buddy in specific, he does really well. He's got a beautiful family, but his wife really struggles just with, constantly comparing themselves or herself to other people or their homes or their cars or, their vacations. And that's, am I answering your question? Is that?
Yeah. I'm gonna pass it to Quaid because I want to hear his insight. What's up?
Okay. So sorry. So compared to school, like in school, let's say the grades, like you said, that's something tangible. You're like, oh, they got 98, I got a 94. So you actually know. But in with social media, a lot of times it's more of a facade than an actual tangible comparison. You're not actually sitting down and comparing like hard facts. You're just comparing how the images and facade that is put out there. And I think that can,
Sweet. Wait, same question to you. What's the difference between comparing ourselves on the social medias of the world and being in a school where you can see someone each and every day, and I can see what they're improving on, what they're doing well on, what they're actually doing worse on, the opportunities and whatnot? What are your thoughts?
Right. So I think it can come from several different, mindsets for this, but, one could potentially be, like on the internet, people are typically posting a lot more of the high life, getting a brand new car, buying the home, going on a private jet, going to an island. And when other people see that, and they may be, not in that position to do that. And it's kind of like almost like a measurement. They almost like devalue, or like they have lower self-worth, or whatever they feel like it's less, or they're inadequate and they need more, or they need to do that. But then there's some of the people who are like, I don't even care, it doesn't even matter what that person's doing. And in school, I think it can be the exact same thing. Like, if you got 100% on the test and I got a 50% on the test, I feel like my self-worth went down if that's what I had actually valued was, that subject, that class, or whatever. So I think it comes down to, one, what do you value? And two, what is your current mental state of like, happiness and self-confidence?
Yeah. When we focus on ourselves, I said this on the last podcast, but when we focus on ourselves, we do compare too much to other people. And that's when the state of confidence can go down. There's people our ages right now that, they own an island right as we speak. There's people that our ages right now that they are in the best shapes of their lives. There are people right now that are spiritually more inclined than we are. They are, in a state of mind where they're with their family at a very good rate. And when we compare ourselves to other people too much, right? And that's what we only focus on. That's when I believe personally our confidence goes down, because we don't think on the things that we can do and be grateful for the things that we have in our own lives. And one other thought that I had, and I do want to bring this back up, is we've got to remember the great things that we've done. Right. I have some things like right here. There's some great things that I've done in my life. I just looked over and, I sold the most amount of, my team and we sold the most amount of personal training units in a month in Vasa history. Right. And in a year as well. I went on a mission, which was fantastic. I got to speak the Spanish language. I've read many of these books that are right behind me. And, when we forget about the things that we've done, we fall short of reaching even where we can be if we only focus on that stuff, then we can't also improve, right? What are your thoughts on that, Trent?
I think that's huge. And I think it's good to have reminders of stuff like that. Like, look, this is something that I accomplished. This is an achievement that I had, and reminding yourself of that And it's not, like I said, for vanity or ego, but I know one of the big, there's like I forget exactly what they are, but there's like 7 different issues that kind of, or metrics that add up, that basically everybody who deals with depression and anxiety has. And one of those things is negative filtering. So you actually ignore the positive things or the accomplishments you have, and you only focus on your shortcomings or your failures. So, and that was something that I've done since I was a kid. I had that negative filtering in my head. And once I, became aware of it, and I had already, tried to do it by, before I was aware of that as an actual, metric, I had already been doing that by trying to focus my mind on positive things, handling negative things, but not, blowing them up. So with you, reminding yourself of your achievements, I think that's, it's more positive filtering. So
what are your thoughts?
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like the exercise we just did. We did it once. We found a reference point, and then we went off that reference point. So it's kind of like the same thing. Taking a look back at your past accomplishments, your past failures. It's a reference point for you to work off of. It's like my state of happiness comes from being in a consistent state of progressiveness and moving forward and becoming better, and just as myself, just becoming the best version of myself possible. Yeah, what was the question?
That was the question, brother.
I was like, I went off. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And I have. Go ahead, Trent.
I go back on a few different things. So from the last episode, you talked about, the bird, when it goes on a branch, it's not trusting the branch, it trusts in its own wings. And that is the whole tie-in to us, like our talk about preparedness. Like if you're prepared, you're going to be able to, handle things that unforeseen circumstances, then you have that belief in yourself and that trust in your wings. So if the branch breaks, so to speak, in your life, you're able to fly. And I also wanted to touch on a little bit the lack in confidence. Besides comparison, I think sometimes if we become overly self-conscious, and I'd mean self-conscious in the traditional way that it's used, like, oh, I'm self-conscious of this part of my body. But I think self-consciousness can also be just too much awareness of yourself, consciousness of, yourself, like you're thinking about yourself too much and you get in your own head. And, I have little, things that I do that help keep me out of my head and help keep me in more flow states, because when I become too self-conscious and too focused on, things about myself, whether they're positive or negative, I get in my own head, and then it takes me out of the flow states that, or the frictionless states like we were talking about earlier. So self-consciousness, not just in the like, oh, my body part that I don't like. I just mean like too much consciousness of self can also take you out of those flow states, and that can, hurt your confidence overall, I think.
Well, that concludes our episode on confidence. May we all have the belief in oneself and in someone and something. May we all have a firm trust in each other. This next week, guys, the homework assignment for this Sunday is going to be to write down 5 experiences where you felt you were the most successful, and throwing it on our thread. Please subscribe to our podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Twitter, our Facebook, all the above. Signing off here from the island. Everyone have a great rest of their week.
Have a good one.
All right, see you guys.